first glance, Victoria's numbers seemed hopeful. 27,000 plus vaccines administered, more than 45,000 tests conducted, and just 5 new local cases, bringing the current cluster total to 40. But any optimism was undercut by the news everyone was dreading: an aged care facility in Melbourne's West in lockdown after a worker tested positive.
This aged care positive case is of extreme concern to us. This is the first mystery case we've seen in this particular outbreak.
The worker has reportedly received their first dose of the vaccine, but half the residents are yet to receive even that. This despite assurances from the Health Minister just 3 days ago that the state's aged care rollout was all but complete.
So if COVID now rips through an unvaccinated aged care facility, that's on you or Minister Colbeck, right?
Well, it's 99% completed, 100% tomorrow.
Today, Greg Hunt said any aged care residents yet to be vaccinated were avoiding it by choice.
The vaccination program is a consent-based program. We would very strongly encourage residents or families to provide that consent.
The Commonwealth also came under fire from the Victorian government after announcing a
$250 million business support package for small and medium-sized businesses.
State leaders let rip on their federal counterparts for not coming to the table.
They like to pride themselves on being the party of the forgotten people. Well, the people they seem to have forgotten is Victorians. This idea that we're working hand in glove when they never put their hand in their pocket is nothing short of a disgrace.
The Commonwealth Government has put $45 billion directly into Victoria's support. We'll continue to provide great support and ensure that we get Victoria open as soon as possible. That's our sole focus.
You've heard the Prime Minister there. You know, they like to point to what they've done in the past, and they did a lot with JobKeeper. There's no doubt about it. I've also talked to Liberals who say, well, you know, in the latest budget, the Victorian government, the Labor government there, put taxes up, so, you know, they can't talk about this. Those are political points. What people care about is whether they're getting help while they're not able to work and put food on the table, and that's where the feds need to step up. The state government have done something. The feds need to jump in.
Well, I mean, see, that's interesting to me because it's like, well, what is the Fed's responsibility and what is the state's responsibility, right? And it seems relatively clear enough, but then you have the states sort of, you know, executing their ideas and their plans, and sometimes the federal government kind of taking credit and saying, oh, well, we fixed COVID, look at Australia, we're doing a great job. And it's like, well, if you're going to take credit, surely you kind of do need to come to the table with some money.
And the bottom line is the federal government collects more tax revenue than states do. So whenever there is money to be dished out, even if it's individual states, the Commonwealth is the big revenue collecting government, not the states.
Just very quickly, while we're talking about numbers, what is Greg Hunt talking about with this 85%? We know that 15% of residents in aged care have said they don't want to have the vaccine, but that 85% is patently untrue because we know that the facility where somebody has now tested positive as a worker, only a third of the residents there have been vaccinated.
The 85% is across everywhere, and 99% of 85% is what he talks about as well. It's just not. It's playing with numbers. It's playing with numbers. But look, we do want to know what the experts are making of this new mystery case, and for that we're joined now by epidemiologist Professor Catherine Bennett. Professor, how concerned are you that it's an aged care worker?
Look, it's our kind of worst-case scenario, isn't it? Having the virus get into an aged care facility is a big concern. We know that half the people or so in that residential care have been vaccinated, but we don't know how many are fully vaccinated. So having a worker unknowingly take the virus in is our worst-case scenario just because of the risk of serious illness amongst the people in that facility.
Professor, the Health Minister, Greg Hunt, says 15% of eligible aged care residents have turned down the vaccine. If we can't convince them to get vaccinated, does that mean that these facilities and everyone in them will always be at risk?
Look, that's right, Lisa. I mean, hopefully this will actually get people thinking. This isn't an abstract idea about the virus. It's very real, and we can now see how quickly it can get into a facility. I think at the end of the day, if people still choose not to be vaccinated, despite their own personal high risk, then we'll have to manage that risk. It will mean that perhaps aged care facilities are cohorted into people who are vaccinated, and the ones not vaccinated are the first to not be able to have visitors and so on, just to protect them. This is something that we'll have to now look at very carefully, but perhaps, like vaccination generally, the current outbreak might in fact inspire people to get that extra protection.
The staff member who tested positive had received their first dose but not their second. What does that tell us?
Look, we do know that even with a first dose, we've learned a lot about this from the UK, that you can progressively get some protection, get quite good protection. We don't know when she had that first dose, but after a couple of weeks, you do start to see some benefits in terms of the people being less infectious themselves. So even though they might still get infected, they're less likely to pass the virus on as the weeks pass past that dose. So let's hope that she had that dose a couple of weeks ago. That will make it a slightly less worrying situation. But at the same time, we don't know.
Professor Catherine Bennett, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.